we're going to, like the people on the web also, we're going to have something on the website, like a forum where you guys can talk about exercise. So let's say you are trying to figure out this one, and you just can't figure out, lesson 5, number 9. I do not understand. I look at the answer key and I don't see how is he getting that? You can ask, and some other student who gets it can help you out. All right. So we're going to have a forum for you to discuss. Obviously, you're physically in the class. You can talk about it too when you see the other people. But we're going to have that available, and I would highly encourage you to use that both so you can be a blessing to others and to get that interaction there. So. There will be selected, although limited periods of time in class we'll be able to discuss these matters. Checking your answers of Williamson is part of your assigned homework. Be aware that Williamson's translation of Hebrew exercises tends, especially as his book progresses, to move away from literal translation and formal equivalence to the name of so-called equivalence. You should not follow the answer key's example in this, but employ formal equivalence translation methodology. So in other words, as the answer key gets later, he gets less literal in how he translates. I would encourage you to try to keep translating more literally. And also keep that in mind. Maybe you might translate it, he says something else. You might actually just be more literal than him in your translation. And that's fine. If you can see, oh, he's just being less literal here. That's going to not be an issue until later, pretty much, because obviously at the beginning, he's going to be literal. We'll all be pretty literal. So. Also, when you do English to Hebrew exercises, there will be a somewhat rare occasions when more than one Hebrew word may be an appropriate contextual translation of the English exercise. So maybe he has an English, so let's translate English into Hebrew. That's what we're very excited. So when you have to do that, there may be occasions where more than one Hebrew word works. When there's something like that, if you choose the word Williamson didn't choose, you're not wrong, obviously, if they're both correct translations. But you should still note his answer with red pen in your thing. One reason that you should do that is when you have tests, the tests will only cover, now if you're auditing, you don't even have to take the test. In fact, you can't take the test if you're auditing. But people take it for credit and so on. When you take the tests will only have questions from Lambda. Okay, so I'm not just going to make up a random Hebrew sentence and just, here you go. Every single test, whatever, is going to be something you've actually seen before in here. So that's kind of nice, actually. Like you've actually seen it before. And so that will, I think, be helpful to you. I mean, you'll have on tests. So that's why it's important to make sure you understand what's going on. It is very important that you keep up with your homework for a number of reasons. One, if you understand how the exercises work, you are very well on your way to having a good grasp of the lesson. That makes sense. If you cannot do the exercises, you almost surely do not have a good grasp of the lesson. Lessons in Landon build on each other, so if you miss something, your lack of understanding will continue to show up. This will make the following lessons more difficult to master. Now, I think that with the format of the class, you are going to get a good grasp of first year Hebrew by the end of this class, and that will be a great lesson. That means that since there's a certain amount of work you actually have to learn. Like, I can't just wave the magic wand and you all have it, okay? So you actually have to put in work to get to the point you need to get to. And that's, unless you have that wand you can wave. If you have that, share it with me. We'll post it on the website. There's a certain amount of work that just has to be done. And so if you don't do that, you're not gonna be where you need to get. And so you do have to set aside time, schedule in time to learn the stuff you need to learn for the classes. Now, at the same time, since we're only having, with the frequency of the class being low, there's also a danger to kind of put off. Like, you don't have a class until 14 days from now. Well, hey, I can put it all off until Friday night, the night before, and I'll do it all then. Well, don't do that. I know there'll be temptation. It's a nice day outside, whatever. But don't do that, okay? Because you will, it won't work out that well. So don't slack off because you have this kind of nice gap, and so there can be a tendency to want to do that. With that, it's not going to work out. So don't do that. I think because of the frequency, it's very doable. Like, I think this class is doable for a normal person, which is good, because of the frequency of the class. But don't kind of abuse that and put off doing the work. As I said here, 2 test questions will, unless otherwise noted, be taken verbatim from the Landon textbook examples, as well as vocabulary, paradigms, and so on. Excellent preparation for the tests. And you may have an unannounced quiz at whatever time. The final exam will have questions from previous tests. So the final exam only has questions not only just from Lambda, but only from previous tests. Because the tests typically kind of have the main things. So the final has the main things and the main things. So hopefully that also will help you study. So don't get behind. Now I said there, if you fall behind, it will be easy to get lost quickly, and it will be hard to catch up. Now, last time I taught this in a 9-week block, okay? Now, in 9 weeks, to learn a whole semester, it is much easier to get behind. Now, you actually have an easier way to catch up because you have it so spread out, which is a blessing. So it's actually easier to catch up, which is great, but don't fall behind anyway, okay? The Bible says, Philippians 4:13, that God do all things through Christ. The exercises are much easier to complete when you know the vocabulary up through the lesson you're completing, as they often include recently learned words. So it's a good idea to try to learn the vocabulary and get the lesson pretty well before you do the exercises, because otherwise you'll be doing more flipping to the back. There is a little lexicon in the back, and certainly you'll use it where it has all the words, but we don't want any crazy things. You're allowed, indeed you are required, to check your homework using the answer key by Williamson. And doing so after you've worked through the exercises will prove very helpful to you. However, do not use the answer key as a crutch. You are not to simply look at an exercise, determine you don't understand it, give up. Look at the answer key and write the answer in the right pen. That will not help your homework grade, and it will also hinder your performance on tests, as well as your actual knowledge of Hebrew will be less for obvious reasons. Furthermore, you are only allowed and required to check your work in the answer key after you've completed all the exercises in a particular lesson. So if you have lesson 1 through 10, check it after you do 1 through 10. Don't check each single one in a row. The only exception is that you may look in the answer key after completing a set of exercises if you're not sure you grasp the fundamental concepts. So in other words, you're not sure if you're even getting the sense of what he wants. Well, then it's fine. Go ahead, look in the answer key, make sure that you understand, oh, this is what he wants you to do. So then you don't do the whole thing and realize that isn't even what he was asking. So we don't want that. Save yourself some time. That's fine. All right. You're allowed to work with other students as long as you all seek to actually complete all the work assigned. So, and like the discussion forum, it's fine. In the discussion forum, don't feel like you need, if somebody asks for some help on a question, don't feel like you need to hide it because you're worried that he's going to know what the answer to that is. I mean, you do have a homework grade, at least if you're taking it for credit, but the main thing, with the point of the homework, is to make sure you learn the material. So whatever actually helps you learn it, I'm really more concerned about that than that you spent an extra half hour working over one exercise because you didn't get it, because someone didn't want to help you out with one word and then you're going to find it, something like that. I want you to actually learn it, get it, and so you can actually talk about things in the web like that, or in person. Homework and Landon will be handed in after you take the tests over the lessons and questions. So I'm only going to collect and grade your homework after you do the test. So, we'll wait a little higher than that. Write on the top of your homework that you completed it. If your work is late, write in red pen the number of days it is late. It's better, obviously, to do all your work on time. If you fail to do so, it's still much better to do it later than you do 0 than 1 at all. If you're auditing, I don't actually have to collect anything from you. You still should do it because you won't learn it if you don't do it. But I'm actually not going to grade what you do. You can ask questions about an exercise. That's fine. I'm not going to help you learn it. But if you're auditing, I'm not going to be, you're not taking it for a grade, so I'm not going to grade it. And I'm going to collect the homework after you do the tests over the lessons in question. So make sure your homework is accurate, because that'll help you with the test. When you translate, you need to be able to completely parse everything you translate and give the lexical form. You are not required to write in your translation the complete parsing of everything, but you are required to put the parsing in root for each verbal or verbal form after verb. If you don't understand that, that's fine. You don't understand what you need to do. You should record somewhere the complete parsing for words you do not know for study purposes. Make a flashcard when you actually get into reading the Bible. If you come across a word you don't know it, put it on a flashcard. The Hebrew lexicon you're likely to have for the course, Brown Driver Briggs, BDB, lists words by lexical root, not individually alphabetical. In other words, a lot of Hebrew words have a three-letter root that they're all related. So, for example, the verb to believe has a particular three-letter root, and related to that three-letter root, like a noun for believer or an adjective faithful, those are all related. And so, in the lexicon, instead of and some of those words might have a different letter in the front, but there's still the same basic three-letter root. The lexicon, BDB, lists all the related words by lexical root. So when you're using this, you actually have to look it up by the root. So you have to identify the three-letter root and look it up here. At the beginning, that makes it harder to use at first, though it does have advantages because you can see all the words that are related. If, whenever you get here, it's going to be a while before you get to BDB. If you spend over 7 minutes trying to find a word in the lexicon, you are allowed to use an alphabeticalized key to find the root form. I don't have that with you, but you can buy one of those. And it actually lists all the words alphabetically, so in case you can't find it in here, it tells you where to look. So you don't spend tons and tons of time just because you can't find the word. You don't want that. You're going to memorize the Shema, that's this famous verse the Jews would say, as well as Deuteronomy 6:5. You'll have to write these verses, again, this is only for taking credit course. You'll have to write these verses out as they are found in your Hebrew text with the consonants and vowels. The accents, the Hebrew accents, you learn as well, but as we're not going to learn those until the last weeks of the first semester, and you have to work ahead to actually get them. I will be very lenient with grading the accents because we're not learning those for quite a while, and give you extra credit if you get them all right. If you do all the homework exercises instead of only 1, 2, 4, 5, I'll also give you extra credit. On late work, if anything is done late, please make it very, very clear to me what was done on time and what was late. For late work, you must put the date it was due and the date it was done on the top of the late assignment. And again, please go back and check your answers with the answer key. It's very important. And make it in red pen so we can tell what's wrong. And there's the grading scale. Any questions on this sort of overview stuff? As an incentive, I think that the reward of being able to read God's Word in Hebrew is a tremendous reward, and it's a wonderful goal, and it will help you understand the Bible better and teach it and so on, preach it, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so keep that goal in mind, and you'll be so happy that you got there. And so it'll be a great blessing to you. And don't lose sight of that when you have some work to do to get there. Okay, you can do it. Somehow the little kids in Israel managed to do this, so you can do it too. Okay, you say, "Well, I'm not a little kid anymore." That's true, but you can still do it, and you can. And if they can, so can you. But keep that goal in mind, and that will be an encouragement to you. Okay, we have an assignment list here. Now, some dates when there are class may change, but hopefully they won't change too much. And this is all on the website as well. So for today, your assignment was simply to have a textbook. So if you don't, order them as soon as you can. And you want to learn that we're going to be talking about the alphabet, of course, here very soon. And you're going to want to learn that as soon as possible. And I'm going to give you some handouts to help you with that. Like I said, Landon does not do a good job teaching that first part, in my opinion. But after that, it's very good. If you even have some other grammar you want to look at, like Ross's Hebrew grammar, not on Ross, that'd be fine. I just have to throw that in because somebody else might need to Hebrew grammar. I'm related to them though. But anyway, so if you have another grammar, that would be fine. But after you get past the first part, it's not too bad. All right. So for next class, you have the consonants, vowels, and transliteration mastered, and I have a handout for you as well. Which is also do L1 and 2. So what that means, as I mentioned in the first part, is you've read lessons 1 and 2. You've memorized the vocabulary and the sort of stuff in there with that, but you don't have to have done the exercise until the next class, okay? So, is that what I said? What I said to you? I'm trying to remember now. see. LN, we lesson L3, 4. See what you understand. Yeah. Memorize vocabulary. Yeah, I think that's what you do. Yeah, unless I forgot what I said, and if I change my mind, then I guess you just have to change my mind as well. But so for the 19th, you've read lessons 1 and 2, you've learned the vocabulary and stuff, but the actual homework stuff is due for the next day. So on May 3rd, you've done the homework exercises for lessons 1 and 2 by then, and you've tried to understand 3 through 5. And then for the 17th, you've read lessons 6 through 8. You've done the homework for lesson 5, and you try to understand 6 through 8. And so we're going to be talking about the lessons that day. Right at the beginning, you may get a little bit ahead, but that probably won't last too long. But that's how those work, unless I forgot how I did it. Things are different. I won't talk about the assignments too far ahead, just because you'll get there when you get there. I even have what's going to be the homework for second semester, but this is dates TBA, because we don't know when that's going to happen yet. And then at the very end, on page 8, I have some Hebrew. At the end, I'm going to be wishing you this benediction in Hebrew. And of course, you won't know what it means yet, but it's this benediction that Moses, or Moshe, that Moshe gave to Israel. And so I'll wish you the benediction that Moshe gave. And that will be good. All right, so that's the course outline. Any questions on the course outline? Yes. I'm expecting you to try to do your best to understand lessons 1 and 2. I already have the consonants, vowels, transliteration mastered. Having read that other handout, but you don't have to have done the exercises yet for lessons 1 and 2. We're going to be discussing 1 and 2 on the 19th. So that's how that works. And, you know, while I want you to try to understand, I understand, you know, we haven't talked about the lesson yet. So if you don't get something, I understand. And that's what then you get to ask, because we haven't talked about it yet. But so that's kind of how that works. So you read the lessons, you learn the vocabulary for the lesson, and stuff like that on the day due, and the homework's due the day after. Does that make sense? Okay, great. All right. Well, let's talk about some of these handouts now that you have. Some of them, a lot of these handouts, I've just given you ahead of time, so you have them way ahead of time. We'll talk about what they are. Actually, I'll tell you what pretty much all of them are, and then we'll start using them probably after we take a break. And I don't know what order you have them in. I'll try to go, hopefully, in the relative order you got them. We have a Hebrew alphabet chart with the consonants, the spelling, the transliteration, and the pronunciation. Probably, this was probably going to be the easiest way for you to learn the alphabet, to use this. It was made by Bobby Bosler. So if you know who Bobby Bosler is, he was kind enough to make some of these charts for me when he took the class. He was a very precocious student. And so that's that. And you're going to want to learn what the letters look like, obviously. The transliteration, you're going to want to learn that as well. It's important to learn the transliteration, not as important as the letter itself, but it is important to learn the transliteration. And of course, what it sounds like is kind of important also. And we have a little Hebrew alphabet song that's on the website, and we're going to be singing that. So that'll be good. Different tune than A, B, C, D, E, F, G, though. This part on the right is the alphabet. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. So that's going to be very helpful to you. I have a Hebrew vowel chart that's also printed out that has the vowels there. That will probably be useful for you learning the vowels as well. Now, I also have a photocopy of a scanned sheet that has the vowels. Yes. This right here, it says vowel chart. This is actually the one that I scanned this in. It's from the back of my textbook. I wrote this out. I have on the website where I read the vowels, this one that says vowel chart. is the one that I'm reading in order. So somebody actually, somebody taking this class in Lithuania actually said, I was looking at the website, and he's a Bible translator in Lithuania, and he said, he told me yesterday, I was looking at the vowel chart, and it doesn't seem to fit what you're reading. And I said, oh wow, because I actually am reading from the one in the back of my book, not this nice printed one. So obviously it's pretty much identical, but if you're looking on the website and you want to see what I'm actually saying in order, it's this one. Also, when we learn the Hebrew alphabet song, at the end I say all the consonants and then I say the vowels for the alphabet, okay? The consonants are just in the order on the Hebrew alphabet chart. The vowels are on the order at the bottom of this page. The vowel chart is a scan, and you don't have to be able to read it yet. But I'm reading it in the order at the bottom of this page here. Alright? So the vowel chart that's the scan is the one for the Hebrew alphabet song that I'm learning shortly. You shorthand? There you go. So that's important. We're going to be looking at those hopefully after the break. That's the vowel chart. I have the sheet here, how to read the Bible in English and the original languages. We're not going to be reading the Bible for a while yet, but this should be the way that we come to God's Word. And so, learning the Bible is not just an intellectual endeavor, it's a spiritual endeavor. And so this should be your attitude as we come to Scripture, and we don't want to ignore that, that's important. So I would encourage you to meditate on that. Something that's also related to that is I have the handout, this handout here. It says truth from the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. That's the 3 parts of the Old Testament. Law, prophets, and writings for Jews who reverence the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This explains what the Bible says about how we can actually have fellowship with God. It kind of summarizes, this is the fundamental teaching of the Old Testament. So I encourage you to, this isn't assigned, at least for a while, but I encourage you to read this and think about it very carefully, because this actually handout gives you the key what the whole Testament's about. So I encourage you to read that. So that's the alphabets, vowels, those ones there. I have these 2 essays, The Battle Over the Hebrew Vowel Points and Evidence of the Inspiration of Hebrew Vowel Points. You're not going to be reading those until 2nd semester. I gave it to you now because the biblical position and also the position that traditionally the Jews held was that the vowels as well as the consonants were inspired. Most people today don't think so. And so I can think of one student, for example, I taught this class for, and I told him I think the actual words, not just the consonants, the vowels, were actually inspired. He just thought I was insane. Like, he looked at me like I was from another planet. And he was polite, but you could tell that he thought I was just from Twilight Zone. Okay, but by the end of the class, after he actually read the stuff, he was kind of, okay, this is very reasonable. But I gave these to you now, just in case you think I'm from the Twilight Zone, when I say that I think the actual words are inspired, not just the consonants. And so if you want to read them ahead of time so you find out why I think that, I think the evidence is very strong for that, you can do that, but you don't actually have to read them for a while. And you probably won't understand the essays super well until you have a better grasp of Hebrew. But you have them now just in case you want to know why I take that standard classic position. Some of the things in the notes on translation, that's just when you get to actually reading the Bible. There's different forms you haven't learned yet, and those will help you with words you don't know anything about yet. So you don't need to worry about those for a while. You also have some handouts, like this one with a number 11 at the top. It says Mapik. This is about the Hebrew accents. Later in the semester, you're going to be learning what the accents are. You're learning the consonants and vowels right at the beginning. You don't need to know the accents for a while. But when you do, each word has accents too, and you want to know what those are about. And so these will help you learn the accents. The accents are also talked about in this one here, the introduction book. And so that will also help you. And the accents do influence the interpretation of Scripture. For example, whether a word is accented on the first syllable or the second syllable, for example, could change it from maybe a verb to an adjective. And so you do want to know what the accents are, because it influences what the word actually is, and it can influence interpretation. So that's what those handouts are. The ones you're going to be using right at the beginning here are the alphabet chart and the vowel chart. Anybody have any questions before we take a break? Yeah, you don't have one? Yeah, I will. If you don't have one, anyone you don't have, oh, it's on the back of the vowels. Oh, look at that. Okay. So if you don't have it, any handouts you don't have, we can photocopy it during the break. And we'll take a break now. We'll start back right at 9. We're good? Okay. We are starting here, second hour. Okay, before we start learning the alphabet and the vowels here, take a look at the beginning of Lambden. I have the hardcover. There's a hardcover version and a softcover version. The hardcover, it's nice because it's hardcover, but the hardcover costs like 3 times as much, so just get the softcover. Unless you really want the hardcover, it's fine. But I covered mine with a Trader Joe's bag. It's kind of falling apart. I need to put a new bag on. But I've had it for a while. I mean, I don't know, I've had this for a long time. I mean, I've taught this class a number of times, and I took the class eventually myself as well. But anyway, so just get the soft cover, save yourself some money. But just so you're aware, because I don't want you to look at the price for the hardcover and then you palpitate when the soft cover is not that bad. All right, go to the preface, Roman numeral 3. He says there, the textbook is designed for a full year's course in elementary biblical Hebrew at the college level, and that's college at Cambridge too. So keep that in mind. This is Cambridge Hebrew. In its choice of vocabulary and grammar, it is essentially an introduction to prose on the poetic language. Poetry is harder to read than the prose. Oh, I forgot to say this. When you have questions, it's fine to ask questions. You take the mic and hand it to the person. Otherwise, you won't be heard by the people watching it from far away. So, and he says that it's a very good grammar. Like I said, I think it's very good. It's a traditional grammar, which means it builds up in a following traditional manner of doing things. He has a generous use of transliteration. As you'll see, there's some value to that. And I'm not going to read the whole thing through verbatim. You can trust me, go read it yourself. And he wrote it in 1971. Table of contents there. I don't think I photocopied the table of contents. Then you have the introduction. No, I don't even think I introduced the preface. So go to introduction, where it says the Hebrew Bible Christian Old Testament, top of that page. Roman numeral 13. Great. The Hebrew Bible Christian Old Testament is a collection of writings whose composition, he says from 1200 to 200. That's because he assumes that predictive prophecy is impossible, so a book where there's a prediction, he assumes it was written afterwards, but that's more a product of theological bias than can be proved. So really 1500 BC to 400 BC would be what the actual evidence would indicate. And the spoken language does not remain constant for so long a period of time. Certainly that's true, languages do change. Now here again, he says that biblical Hebrew in the Bible is the language from the Babylonian exile, during which a major portion of biblical literature was compiled and composed. There, of course, he's assuming that like Moses, the books of Moses predict the Babylonian exile. So because he thinks predictive prophecy is impossible, his assumption is it was written after that. Because of course otherwise God would predict the future. We can't have that. So therefore it had to be written then. But it's certainly true that language does change over time. But to say that most of the Bible is written after the exile is more a product of saying that predictive prophecy is impossible than something that would actually necessarily be based on evidence. And so some of that stuff, there's some rationalistic bias in some of the things he says in that section here, just to be aware of. He talks about Hebrew as it relates to other languages. Hebrew is related to those other languages, no doubt, but there's evidence in Genesis that Hebrew is the original language. There's different puns and things that work in there. We'll see how that works. He says on Roman numeral 14 that it was essentially that originally it was vowelless, and again based on this stuff in Exodus, it would have vowels originally. Now he says that there was all this corruption in the text as it was passed on, but then he says the texts post-dating the 1st century AD do not differ from each other in any important particulars. What's interesting is that's when we actually have physical copies. So basically, from the very earliest time we actually have copies, they haven't been changed. They're not corrupted, they're the same. but he assumes they were corrupted before that time, and then they weren't corrupted afterwards. So the actual evidence that we have doesn't give any evidence for them being corrupted. It's more, again, a rationalistic presupposition. And God promised in Scripture that He would preserve His words. In Psalm 67, so we believe that He did what He said, and that it wasn't corrupted. Modern printed versions of the Hebrew Bible, again, it says the vowels are added there, which I don't think is the case. I think God actually preserved what He gave for us under inspiration. He talks about the different editions near the bottom of that page, where he says most people today use the Biblia Hebraica 3rd edition. That's one, it's called the Leningrad manuscript. That's one copy that was found in Leningrad, and they thought that was really good, so they went with that. The text that we're going to be using is the traditional text that underlies the King James and was the traditional Hebrew Bible from 1524 until 1937. And that's the Hebrew received text. That's the other one, where he says it was ultimately the Second Rabbinic Bible, 1524, 1525. That's what we're going to be using. So just so you know what that is. And the Bible talks about Kathiv Kare. You don't need to worry about what those are yet. But I don't think you can prove those are variant readings either. So enough with that. Now, sounds and spelling. We're not going to read through all this verbatim right now. What I'm going to point out, though, is in Roman numeral 15, he talks about these, he has this transliteration and pronunciation, and talks about labial, labiodental, interdental, and I guess if you have a linguistic background, that's all very helpful to you. But if you don't, it probably may not mean that much. So he talks about all that stuff. He talks about the vowels on page 17. He gives, and this stuff is actually useful, and once you learn the transliteration, it'll make sense. But he talks about the transliteration. Then on Roman numeral 18, he talks about the syllables, and the types of syllables, and the stress on the syllables, and these types of consonants, and vowel reduction, and these special features of the consonants on Roman numeral 20. And then, on Roman numeral 21, he introduces, drum roll, the alphabet in Hebrew. You actually get to see the Hebrew alphabet only on page 22. Can you see why I think this is a very confusing way to do it? You teach all this stuff, and then you give them the alphabet? Oh, man. So, that's why I'm recommending you learn the alphabet and the vowels from the charts, because unless you have a great linguistic background, I think it's a very confusing thing to introduce all that stuff and then to give you the vowels and consonants, okay? But you're going to want to go back and read that because it's important stuff. But it's almost like after you learn it, you can read it and it makes sense. But to learn it, I think it's a really, in my opinion, it's not a good way to learn it. Maybe at Cambridge they do it and it works out, but I don't think it's the best way to do it for normal people. It's all very useful stuff, but I'd recommend that you learn the vowels and consonants from handouts as we're going to do when we go back and read that stuff later. And you will need to read it and understand it, but oh man, I think it's very confusing the way it does it. All right, let's learn. So I just pointed that out now. And actually, I'm going to point out one more thing. Go to lesson 1, the page that says lesson 1, which is page English letter 3. And for next class, you have lessons 1 and 2 to read and try to understand. The vocabulary is at the end of each lesson. So like page 6, there's a vocabulary. But the exercises aren't due till the class afterwards. All right. And notice he has the Hebrew letters and then he has transliteration after each word. That is helpful. He does that for quite a long time. I'm pointing out on the top of page 3, the top of lesson 1 here, it says read 1 through 3 of the section sounds and spelling, the Roman numerals. He puts at the front, all that stuff right at the front, he puts together all the sound and spelling rules in one place. Okay, good. Okay. I can speak faster. If I'm speaking too fast, you can just get me slow. Yeah. It's not an option. I need to remember that. Hebrew class. All right. Especially when I'm excited. Okay. So right there on page 3, it's a good reminder. I need to remember that. He says read 1 through 3 of the section Sounds and Spelling. And then on lesson 2, which is page 8, he says read 4 through 6. So in this sounds and spelling section at the front, he doesn't expect you in the first 2 lessons to learn the whole sound and spelling thing first, and then go back, start lesson 1, okay? So you learn that sound and section stuff in chunks, but he puts it all in the front as a unit for easy reference later, and that's actually a nice thing. So like I said, once you get over this initial hump where he does this very weird way of teaching it, I think it's very useful. And after this first part, I think he really does a good job going lesson after lesson. But, oh man, I can't imagine learning all the transliteration and labial and interdental and alveolar and all this stuff, and then looking at what the letters look like afterwards. Seems really strange. But hey, work for him again. All right, take a look at the alphabet chart. It is going to be essential for you to know the consonants and vowels very, very well by next class for obvious reasons, because you're going to be writing it all. If this sounds and spelling stuff sounds kind of overwhelming, in a few classes it'll become second nature to you. So it won't be too long, and all that stuff will actually be second nature. So that'll be a blessing. Right now it's not, but it will be. You'll get there. So that's a blessing. So on the consonants there, the first consonant is the letter Aleph. Aleph is a silent letter. It doesn't have a sound. And the transliteration there is the close quote. If you go down, there's another letter that has a open quote transliteration. You could remember that Aleph is the close quote because it's the first letter and it closes the quotation. That's why I remember. First letter closes the quotation. The other one opens the quotation. It does nothing to do with the quotation. Just remember it. So. Then you have the letter Baith there. Baith with the dot inside. The dot is called the Dagesh. That's the name for the dot. And if it has the dot inside, the Dagesh, you pronounce it as ba. Otherwise, you pronounce it as va. The ones with the Dagesh have a stop sound, ba, versus the sound going on, va. And we'll see how that works with Gimel also. Third letter there is Gimel, pronounced like ga, or more ga, without the Dagesh inside. It has the sound goes on a little longer. So that's Gimel. When you learn the alphabet, you don't need to say Aleph, Beit, Beit, Gimel, Gimel, Dal, 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 for the ones with the Dagesh. They are just both listed so that you see the pronunciation on the side. But when you memorize the alphabet, you just memorize the letters. And you'll know which ones have the Dagesh later. Not too much later. Next one, there is Daleth. Daleth has a duh sound, or a duh that kind of keeps going a little bit. It's almost more like duh, but more like DH, like duh. Then Hey is the next one. That's the letter, pronounced like ha. The next letter there is Wow, pronounced like wa, as in water. Now, we are learning what appears to be the original Hebrew pronunciation at the time the Bible was given by inspiration. If you go to Israel today, they pronounce some of these a little bit differently. Like wow, the letter wa, they pronounce it va. So if you're talking to a modern Jew, he'll think something's funny with you if you say wa instead of va. But so just keep that in mind. There's a modern pronunciation that's a little bit different. We're going with what appears to be the biblical pronunciation. So if you travel to Israel and you want to order some matzah over there, you might pronounce things a little different than here. All right. But they'll know you're a tourist and you're American, so they'll still keep your money in the future. So it's wow. Next letter is Zion, pronounced za, as in zebra. Then Hey, that's an interesting one. You don't say Hey, say Hey. Hey, good, yeah, it's like, okay. That's pronounced like ka, as in Bach. Then you have Taith, ta, as in toy. Ya, yod, ya is in yellow. Kaf, as ka as in cap, or without the Dagesh, it's ka, a little longer sound. It's in Bach. The one after that is also the letter Kof. It's the same letter, but at the end of a word, it's like the bottom drops off the letter. So you can imagine the word comes to the end and the bottom falls off. So it goes down below the line. So that one below the letter Kof is still the letter Kof. It's not a new letter. Don't learn it as a separate letter. It's just the form of the word at the end of the word. All right. So then you have Lamed, La as in love, Main, M as in mouse. Then that's the final form of the letter Main as well. The square, like the one that looks like a square. That's Main at the end of a word as well. So that's not a different letter either. It's the same letter Main, just end of the word. Then you have Noon, N as in now. Final form of Noon there as well. Same letter, final form. Samek, S as in sore. Ayin, silent letter. It's possible that both Aleph and Ayin had a kind of pronunciation if you go back far enough. In modern Hebrew, they are both silent letters, and we're going to follow the convention there of both Aleph and Ayin being silent letters. Then you have Pei, P, P is in parent, or without the dagesh. And then you have the final form of the letter Pei as well. It drops down to the final form. At the end of the word, yes. Oh, sure, try to the microphone. Yes, is that at the left end of the word? Then you have Sada. Sada there. And the final form of Sada, again at the end of the word. Kof. K sound, Kof. Resh. R is in run. Seen and Sheen. Those are really considered the same letter. In the alphabet, when we say the alphabet, we're going to say them as if they're two letters, but really they're considered one letter. Like in Psalm 119, which is that acrostic psalm where each one is divided, the first one is all Aleph, the second is all Beit. This is one letter, it's not two. They don't have one Seen and then a Sheen section, so that's considered one letter. But the difference, of course, is what side the dot's on. Is it on the left or the right? If it's on the left, it's Seen, as in sun. If it's on the right, it's Sh, as in shadow. And then you have Tau. Tau is T as in toy, or without the dagesh. All right, so those are the consonants. Yes, grab this. New. Good. New.
It's not on.
Oh yeah, it's on. On. Oh. Yeah. We'll do that. Is it on now?
No.
Okay. The question was, is the noon the same in the first line as at the bottom one? Yes. It's the same letter. It's just, again, the bottom drops out. You'll notice that in the final forms, it's basically the same thing, but the bottom dropping out. So yes, it's just one letter, noon, is the bottom. If it ends the word, it goes down. Yes. No. Oh, at the end of each word. At the end of each word, it will drop down. It will never drop down unless it's at the end of the word. Any other questions about the alphabet? I mean, they're a different pronunciation, but they're basically one letter. We're treating them as two letters. Yeah, you can say that. Yeah. The question was, if I repeat the alphabet, should I say Seen, Sheen? And the answer is yes. Say Seen, Sheen. Any other questions? On the transliteration, the question is, what are all these things on that? The consonant transliteration, the way that you know what those are is based on the transliteration column. So, Seen and Sheen you can know what those little funny little things are above and to the side and so on based on that. And the vowels, you can know what the transliteration is from the vowels, which you don't know yet, which you haven't learned yet. But the transliteration is just how you would, the English transliteration of the Hebrew characters. And so you're going to learn, this right here gives you transliteration for all the consonants. And we're going to learn the transliteration for the vowels as well. But it does look kind of like you would just say it, but you know, it is a little weird looking with all these things, triangles at the top and straight lines and all that stuff. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to write each letter on the board so you see how to write them, because you're not going to write them with these fancy little curly cues and things when you write the consonants. So I'm going to give you a way that show you how to write each of the letters, so that when you're learning the alphabet and writing it out, you write it something. So get a pen, get a piece of paper, and we're going to write the letters out. Sure, I will turn the board more that way. Wherever you, the question was, yeah, you can write wherever you like. The question was, is it good to write it right along there? Wherever you write it, it's going to be fine. So Aleph, you just write Aleph by making a line like that and just putting two things on it. Okay? One down, boom, boom. That's the way Aleph. Bait, or bait, you just make a go around like this, and then the line that way. Oh, it's working now. Okay. And you might want to focus in on the board, on the monitor, while I'm doing this.
Why is there an extra line going back? You don't really see that on this. Why can't you do the backwards?
Because Kaf is this. This is the letter Kaf. Now, if you have a Hebrew font, it doesn't make it this big. And if you don't make it that big, it's fine. Like, you want to make it smaller like that, that's fine. But I tend to make it a little on the larger side so you can easily distinguish the bait from the Kaf. Otherwise, you might confuse the two. But yes, thank you for pointing out. It doesn't need to be that big. I made it really big. It doesn't need to be that big. But you want to have at least a clear distinction between the bait and the Kaf. This is the bait. One thing about the Hebrew alphabet is it just looks really cool. And so when you learn it, you can just write stuff in Hebrew and it'll just look really cool. So, I don't know, can you use a grammar from a Cambridge guy to look cool? Anyway, okay. Aleph Beth, Gimel. So Gimel, boom, 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 Gimel. Aleph Beth, Gimel. Daleth, line across, line down. Of course, Hebrew is written right to left, so we write backwards in English. All right? And so they write right to left. So here's Daleth. Here's Hey. Hey. With Hey, you want to give yourself a decent little space up here, because the Hey looks the same thing as the Hey, except it connects, basically, and a little down. So you want to have a little hole there so that you can clearly tell it's a Hey, not a Hey.
That line doesn't go over here.
No, this line, there's a space right there. Then a wow, short top and down. Short top and down for the wow. I'm going to erase these now with the next set. I mean, if you really feel like writing in a different, like you just like using a different pen stroke or something, that's fine. But I think this is an easy way to do it. Is it visible on the camera, Tim?
Yes.
The board? Good. Good, thank you. We should give Tim a big round of applause. Very probably back there. Zion. Here's Zion. I made the little top part a little bit bigger again just for ease of identification. Chayth. So the difference between the Hey and the Chayth is the Chayth connects and has a little sticky out thing up here. So this comes a little bit further out, and it connects all the way. That's the shape. And the tape here, like that, like a cup with a little straw, I guess, or something. So tape. Yod is the smallest letter. This is Yod. Yod doesn't go down all the way, just a little popping. In Matthew 5:18, where Jesus said, "Not one jot or tittle shall pass from the law till all be fulfilled," jot is the smallest consonant, the Yod, and the tittle is the smallest vowel, which is just the dot. And so he said, not even one of these would pass away from the law till all be fulfilled. He's talking about the Hebrew letter Yod. And there it is. You can see it's very small. Not even the smallest consonant or vowel, like I said, pass away from the law. False. Yod. And then we have Kaf. Like that. You want to make the Kaf more square than the Nun. The Nun looks same, except the Nun is short like this. So you want to make a clear distinction between the Kaf and the Nun. So you can tell that you're writing down, and other people can tell that you're right. So there's the Kaf. The final form of Kaf is the same thing, except it goes below the line. So if here's the line, the final form of Kaf goes down below the line. And again, you want the top to be pretty big, because the final Nun also goes below the line, and the only difference will be the length of the top. That's the final form of Kaf. Lamed, the little uppity part goes above the line. So the Lamed is like that, and the top is above the main part of the line. Main, you can do one stroke like this, and you stick like a little, looks like a house with a little chimney. So here's main. And the final form of main is just a square, basically. That's final main, with a little sticky out thing. So that's final main. I'm going to erase these now. Any questions about them? Put Nun up now. Nun here is like this. No, again, the difference in Nun and Kaf is how long the top is. So we want to have a shorter top on the Nun. And the final Nun, this goes down below the line. And you can see here where the final Nun, you want to make, again, a clear distinction between. Because the final Kaf looks just like the final Nun, except it's a shorter top on the Nun. Samek looks like this. So, curved line. You want to make it clear. This curve you want to make pretty distinct, because otherwise the difference between the final main is just the box. Samek is going to be curved. That's the only difference. So you want to make it distinct so you know which one is a Samek and which one's a final main. Those two can look alike. The normal main looks different, but the final main looks a lot like a Samek. Of course, the final main will be the end of the word. But still, you want to make it distinct. Ayin, you know what that is. There's ayin. Boom, boom. Ayin. Keep the ayin in that letter there. I'm sorry, you may have to endure some puns at some point. There are puns in the So there's a biblical basis for telling people puns. Now my puns are not always very funny, but anyway. Okay, ayin. Then we have pay. Here's pay. You know, I can do a very good job. It shouldn't be curved like that at the top. There's pay. final K is the same thing. It just goes down. And it's curved on the board here. It should all be a straight line. It's just a little curved. And then you have sada. There's sada. The final sada looks a little different. You just put it down on them like this. So that's kind of fancy. You can see it looks much more fancy in the in the script or the curlicues, but I mean, I guess if you really felt like it, you could put curlicues on it every single time, and it would get quite time-consuming. Kof. There's Kof. I guess you can make a curve too, but that's typically a nice, easy way to make a Kof. Resh. You want to make sure the resh looks different from the daleth. The daleth is straight, like this, with a little thingy past the end. The resh just curves around. But if you make the end of the daleth too small, you can see how those two letters could look similar. So resh curve, daleth straight. So let's say do a resh. Final reason. Got things down. A good way to learn this is you're saying the alphabet, and we're trying to write it at the same time. At least that's one way to do it. However, I don't care how you do it, you just have to learn it somehow. Here's the scene. And the difference between a scene and a sheen is just the dot. You put the dot over here, scene, put the dot over here, sheen. And tau. You don't want this bottom thing to be as long as the top, but you want it to be visible. So if it's shorter, it's fine, but you just want it to be clearly there. Because if you don't have it clearly there, it looks like a cape. Here's tau. Cape is like this. So if you don't make the little sticky things visible, like the tau could look like a cape. So that's how you work it out. Writing the consonants. Alright, let's talk about the vowels, and then we're going to get to sing our alphabet song, and that'll be nice. Right. I need, you know what, I have in my book. That vowel chart that's the handwritten one, take a look at the handwritten vowel chart. It looks like there's tons and tons of vowels here, and they kind of are, but they're actually related. And so there's three types. There's these A vowels, I vowels, and U vowels in many categories. I'm going to go across the one that says long first, from left to right. You have the, well, actually, I'm going to go down to the top of the line. So A, there it says comets K. There's certain maters, at the top it says class long vowels with maters. There are certain Hebrew vowels where the consonant afterward is considered part of the vowel. And it's not that confusing. It's not too bad. So comets hey is just a very long ah sound. Longer because of the vowel that hey afterwards. So that combination, the X is not a letter, it's just, there's some Hebrew letter. Imagine any Hebrew letter where the X is, okay? So the vowel is below, it's the little T shape. So here we have comets, and comets hey just has a hey afterwards. So there's comets hey. Then you have the long vowel comets, which is just ah. So comets hey is ah, longer a. The comets is just ah. The short a is a pathak, ah. Now in modern Hebrew, comets and pathak are pronounced the same. But for pedagogical purposes, because if they were pronounced the same every time you wrote it, it would be harder to learn the words. We're going to say them a little bit differently. So we may be exaggerating some of the differences here in how we say it, but it'll help you learn it, okay? And, you know, there aren't any people from 600 BC who are going to listen to you anyway, so no one's going to care if you say it a little bit different. So comments is ah, pathak, ah. And then a very short A sound is the hatay, pathak, ah. Then you have the E or I type vowels. You have tsere, hey. The tsere is these two dots. That's a tsere that go beneath the letter. So tsere. At the end of a word, a tsere can have a hey after it, and you call that a tsere hey. The actual, and that's an A sound. A. You can also have the vowel segol, which is 3 dots, and that's kind of a longer eh sound. Then the normal long vowel is just sere, the 2 dots, and that's A. Segol is e. So A, e. Hatef segol is you add 2 more dots to the right of the segol. And that's a hatef segol, and that's a very short e sound. At the bottom there I have shawa. Shawa is a very, very short vowel, a very short e. Sometimes it's, depending on whether the type of syllable, which we're going to talk about later, it could actually not even be pronounced at all. You can consider the hatef vowels, the hatef pathak, hatef segol, hatef comments, as equivalent to shawa in certain situations. It's like you take the vowel above it and you add a shawa to the right, and it becomes the hatef. So if you look there, pathak and hatef pathak is you just put the shawa next to the pathak. Segol, hatef segol, you put a shawa next to segol. Shawa is right at the bottom, underneath hatef segol. Okay, let's go ahead, fellas.
So the actual vowel is the dots, not the X.
Yes, not the X. The vowels are the dots.
So that vowel could come under any.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's certain situations where some vowels will go with certain vowels, certain consonants, and so on. But yes, you can have any consonant there. What?
Can you just give an example with a consonant or various examples of the same
Okay,
consonant?
here's Baith, and you could have a shawa underneath it. You could have a hatef segol. You could have a Connets. You could have a
Can you
pathak.
say it? How would you
This would
say
be
that?
bad. This would be ba. We're going to actually, after we go over this, we're going to be saying a bunch of words. Yeah, yeah. I'm not assuming that just saying it one time like this, you're going to instantly master it right now. Okay? And thankfully it's on the web. You can listen to this lecture more than once. You know? But it won't be too bad. You'll get it. Then you have at the top here the tsere yod. That's the vowel tsere, the 2 dots with a yod afterwards. And then segol yod, which is just the segol. And this is A. Segol yod is kind of like a sound. It sounds kind of similar. Just like the segol with a yod, the ya with a combination of that. Then you have the hirek, that's just 1 dot, hirek. That's actually what I think the tittle is in Matthew 5:18, not when jot or tittle shall pass from the law. The tittle is the vowel hirek, which you notice a lot of the other vowels are just basically hirek with other stuff. They add more dots, or even a comments is kind of like similar to that. Just imagine like 7 dots together. And then the yod is the smallest consonant. So not the smallest consonant or the smallest vowel that pass from the law. They'll all be fulfilled. So hirek is just the 1 dot, and hirek is an E. So hirek, E. And there could be either a shorter or a longer hirek in how you say it. Some of that you're like, boy, how am I going to know, remember all that? If you remember the actual letter, once you get used to saying the Hebrew, it'll be fine. It's not that big of a deal. You're not going to have to think, boy, this is a long hiruk or a short hiruk. You just say E and it'll fit the word, and it'll just kind of come automatically what it is. Then you have the O vowels. Cholam is the main O vowel. You can have a cholam. Cholam comes up at the top here. So it comes above the letter to the left. And so if it's below here, it's a hiruk. Up there, it's a cholam. If a cholam is after a K afterwards, it's called a cholam A. A cholam is up there on the right-hand side. That's an O. Now, Comet's Hatuf looks just like Comet's. But that's an O sound, shorter O sound. There's ways you can learn from the syllables, which, whether it's a Comet's Hatuf or a Comet's, it won't be ambiguous. You'll be able to know for sure. But it looks just the same. It's right below the Comet's Hatuf, but it's an O sound. And the Hatef Comet's is a very short O sound. You also have a cholam with a letter wow beneath it, and this is called a cholam wow. Cholam with a wow underneath it. It's a long O. O. Then you have the U vowels. Shurek is the long U. This is a shurek. Looks like a wow with the dot in the middle. That's a shurek. Kibbutz goes beneath the letter. You think kibbutz should be the last dot? But kibbutz is down like that at the bottom. And you can have a longer or a shorter U. Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is the last one I'm talking about. At the bottom of this sheet, I actually have the letters for the different vowels like it's going to be said on the song. I have comets on the top left, Pathak underneath it, Sereh, Segol, Hirek, Cholam, Shurek, and Kibbutz in Shawah. And basically, if you learn those ones, and you have the comments on too, but that basically covers it all. The other ones, like a comment's hey, Sereh, hey, Sereh, oh, it's just a consonant with a vowel together. So it's not like, it's not as hard to learn as it looks. It's not as overwhelming as more than vowel. Soon you'll actually just have it like, know it as well as the back of your hand. Say, Mr. Ross, I don't know the back of your hand very well. Well, that's okay. I don't know the back of my hand. You'll get this down. You'll know it better than the back of your hand. All right, before we take, yes. That's one.
So what you have down here correlates with up here. So like
yes.
This is the A vowel, this is the I.
When you learn the consonants, if you're looking at it now, you don't know the consonants, you're like, it just looks like a bunch of strange stuff. I just wrote in Hebrew characters the vowels. You can use this chart as well. But I went over this one because this is the way the song goes. So before we take a break, I'm going to sing you the Hebrew vowel song, or the Hebrew alphabet song. And then we're going to see if we can try to all sing it together. So this may be a challenge, but soon it'll be fine. The tune that we sing it to is O Come, O Come, Emmanuel. It's a Hebrew tune. Okay? So this is the song. So try to follow along. I'm going to be using the vowel chart, but look at the alphabet chart first. I'm going to say all the consonants in the song. Then I'm going to say the vowels in the order from the bottom of the vowel chart. And you may, you may want to just follow from the transliteration at first, so that you actually see what I'm doing. This is how the song goes. I'm going to sing it first because you don't even know how it goes. Okay. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daleth, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Tav, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Hey, Tzadek, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tav, Kametz, Pathak, Sereh, Segol, Hirek, Cholam, Shurek, Kibbutz, Shewah. The consonants you probably follow that all. Now it's kind of nice. The chorus for O Come, Emmanuel is the vowels. And so the verse is the consonants. And then the vowels are at the bottom there. I don't know if there's a way to help you easily say what those vowels are. Yeah, the thing is, I don't have something to put it or write it on right now. Well, let's try saying, at least, just try your best on saying this with me, and you don't have a mic, just keep the mic far away from you, okay? and then it'll all sound great, because you'll be saying it the way I do, okay? So let's all say this together. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. Wow, Zayin, Chet, Et, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Hey. Sadek, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tav, Kamet, Pafak, Tsere, Segol, Hirek, Kolem, Shurek, Kibbutz, Shewah. That's not too bad. What I'm going to do in the break is I'm going to write it in order on the board, and that will help. Yeah, I can see you get lost in that. So you take a break, it's time to take a break, and I'm going to write it up there so you can actually see what you're saying. And that will be good. So take a break. Okay, I put up here, are we starting yet?
Mm-hmm.
We are? Yeah, okay. For the song that we just sang, I put up here the actual vowels in the order of the song. So if that helps you with a song, you might want to put this somewhere. So on the chorus, it's Kametz, Hathach, Serei, Segol, Hirek, Kolem, Shurek, Kibbutz, Shewah. So you might want to put that somewhere until you learn the consonants well to recognize it at the bottom of the chart. Kametz, Hathach, Serei, Segol, Hirek, Kolem, Shurek, Kibbutz, Shewah. So the long A, the short A, the E, the F, the I, the O, the U with the letter, the short U, and the very, very short Shewah. Wait, you want to ask a question, please?
On the nice, pretty handout here, it seems like the last vowel is in front.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. The Hebrew vowel chart that's printed is missing the Shewah. There is no Shewah on there, and that is a problem. So you should supply a Shewah somewhere. The Shewah is the 2 dots below, the very, very short vowel. You would spell it the way on my one, you'd spell it the way that I spell it at the very bottom right. I have the word Shewah there written in Hebrew. In Lambden as well, we're not using it right now, but Lambden also has, if you go to, take a look in your Lambden, look at Roman numeral 17 and 18, you have the consonants. And then on Roman numeral 25, you have all the vowels and how to say them. So you also have that. We haven't been using it right now, but Lambden does eventually give you the actual vowels there. That's Roman numeral 22, 23, and 25. So go ahead and write, if you want to write these down, Kametz, Hathach, Serei, Segol, Hirek, Kolem, Shurek, Kibbutz, Shewah. And after you write that down or you're ready, say it one more time.
I recommend writing down just the
I mean, you need to remember which ones go below and which above. These are all below the letter. The colon is on the left. This is on the left. That's below. So they're all below except the colon. So you don't want to forget that. But
should we write like the
comments and so on? It's up to you. I mean, I have it written at the bottom of the page. You can do whatever you want with that. It's in the Landon has it written out in on page Roman numeral 25 too.
Is the Shrek considered above or on the side?
The Shurek is to the left. So let's say here's a lamed. Okay? This would be Lu. Consonant lamed, vowel Shurek. Or if you had a kibbutz, here's your kibbutz. Lu. Right below the lamed. The Shurek is a longer U, the kibbutz is a shorter U. This is the Shurek, 3 dots below.
3 dots?
3 dots is Shurek. I mean kibbutz. The Shurek looks like the letter wow with a dot in the middle. And that's Shurek. Go ahead actually right now, just let's see. I'm going to have you turn to a random page in the book. Turn to page 72. I would have you do it in the actual Bible, except you don't know how actual Bibles would be. Yeah. Okay, you don't have, okay, don't turn to page 72. That is a good point. You don't actually have page 72. So don't turn to page 72. Turn to page 11. You do have page 11. It should be the last page you have. And I'm going to read, on the website, I have Genesis 1. I read to you the first part of Genesis 1. So if you want to see how it sounds, I read it slowly. And when you get your Hebrew Bible, or I have a link, I give you the PDF version until you get the physical copy. And you can compare and read it along until you get to the point you can read it yourself. Okay? When you can read it yourself and you can keep going and you're doing it right, then you know you've got it. So on letter F, page 11, and you have the transliteration here too, which helps. The first sentence there is ha'anashim. I'll say that one slow. Ha'anashim ba'ir. The letters and vowels, the first letter is the hey. Beneath the hey is a comet. Then you have an aleph, the next letter to the left. Beneath the aleph is a hatef pathak, a. Then you have a noon, na. Beneath the noon is a comet, a. Then you have a sheen, sh. Then you have a hirek with a hirek yod, e. And a final name. Next word. Ba, faith. Comes mean that ba. An ayin, which is silent. Hirek yoth, e, resh. Let me get rid of 3 there. Ha'anashim ba'ir. Let me do the next one too. Ha-na-shim ba-yith. You have a hey, ha, hathak, a, noon, with a dot inside which you haven't talked about yet. Noon, na, comets, a, sheen, sh, hirek yod, e, final name, na. Hanashim. Next word, ba-yith, baith, ba, hathak, a, ba, the, hathak, a, yod, ya, hirek, e, tau, or rather. Hanashim babayith. So that's what we have there.
second bath and the bath,
Yes.
there's a mark above that? Is that above
That's
it?
just an accent mark.
Okay.
They put that because you know that word is accented on. Most Hebrew words are accented on the last syllable. Bayith is on the next to last syllable. That's all that is. That's not a vowel. Don't worry about it.
That's not a pronunciation at this
No.
point.
It's just you have Bayith. It says Bayith. It's Bayith. That's it. Yeah, good question. If the thing is working right back there, Tim, would you be able to photocopy the first page of Genesis 1 for the students? And then or well, you're a student too, but if everybody has that, then actually I'm hoping we can try to say, like, the first part of Genesis a little bit. But I don't want to leave from up here.
Do you have it?
I have it right here.
Can we?
Oh, yeah, Ricky will do it. That'll work out. Okay, Ricky, if you could just photocopy that first page. And here, right away, look at that. We're going to be reading Genesis right at the very beginning. It's amazing. Oh, do you all have that? Oh, that is visible. Hey, you know what? Hey, Ricky, use this instead. It's really big. You just photocopy that. No, you won't. Thank you. Okay. Let's say that we're going to sing the song again. We're going to sing it slowly. Try to point to the consonants as we sing. And then if you wrote these vowels out, you can point to them as we say them also. All right? So here we go. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daleth, Hey. Wow, Zayin, Chet, Teth, Yod, Kaf, Lamed. Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Hey. Tzadek, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tau. Kametz, Hatha, Sere, Segol, Hireh, Cholam, Shureh, Kibbutz, Shewa. That's good. Good job. Good job. Let's do it again. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daleth, Hey. Wow, Zayin, Chet, Teth, Yod, Kaf, Lamed. Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Hey. Tzadek, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tau. Kametz, Hatha, Sere, Segol, Hireh, Cholam, Shureh, Kibbutz, Shewa. All right, very good. Let's do it one more time. I wonder what would happen, like, if I went to, imagine you went to like some Pentecostal thing and start speaking tongues, you got to start saying the alphabet, what they would do. You just somebody interpret it, you know, as whatever. And you went to say the alphabet. Anyway, yes.
For the consonant, Sadi,
Sada.
with the ending, that's the ending one, right? The Sadi is so.
Yes.
So we don't say that one.
No. Just say Sada one time. Yeah. It's just one Sada. Any other questions? Nice little song, eh? If I don't say so myself. But I picked it up.
On the song for this part, is it like we say this one here first, right?
On the vowel chart, we are not saying every single thing listed there.
Yes.
Because some of them are just combinations of the other ones.
Could you just?
And everybody,
you're singing?
you guys all have, you didn't pass the bench script up here, right? Oh, you did pass it, okay, great. Yeah, okay, on the vowel chart, if you want to circle the ones that we're saying, that's not a bad idea. Let me go back there. Okay, the first one is the comets. That's under long on the left. You can see from the transliteration until you actually figure out what they are. It says comets there. That's this first one. So we're singing comets, because comets, hey, is just the letter hey after the comets. So, and besides, you ran out of song anyway, so that's just the end of the chorus. So you have to do something. So comets, hey isn't there because just the comets of the hey. Pathak is right beneath the comets. So we're singing that ah. We're not singing any of the hataf vowels, the hataf pathak, the hataf sigol, and the hataf comets, because they're just schwa with the ones above it. They're just the one above it, basically, essentially, shortened by the schwa. So we're not singing any of those. So comets and pathak. Then we have tsere. Tsere is just to the right of the comets on the long vowels. It's the a. So there's tsere. And then segol is underneath tsere, right to the right of the pathak. Hirek is both in the long and the short. It's just the one dot, the e. Kolum is in the long to the right of the hirek. We're not singing the comets hatuf. That's the one actually, if I was going to somehow add one in, it'd be good to sing comets hatuf too. Because that's a O is kolum versus A. Comets hatuf. But
which one is after segol?
After segol is hirek. Hirek, which is to the right of segol. We're kind of going to the right the whole time. So you have hirek, and after hirek you have cholum. Cholum is to the right of hirek. It's like, if you look at the long column, it's all the way across the long column, pretty much. After cholum, the only one in the very top that we're singing is the shurek. The shurek is the on the top right. The reason that we're singing that one, not the other ones, is the shurek isn't as much, I mean, it's like a wow with a dot in the middle, but it sounds differently than the other ones. Like, hirek yod is a hirek plus a yod. Seire yod is a seire plus a yod. Seire hey is a seire plus a hey. Shurek doesn't sound like anything. That's what we're singing it to. So that's the long U. So that's shurek. And kibbutz is right below shurek. It's shorter U. And schwa is the very bottom of the chart. Schwa could go underneath any of the columns really, because just a very, very short like that simple.
One after surek?
Shurek.
Shurek?
Kibbutz.
But do you have 3 dots?
Yes. There should be 3 dots that did not show up for you. Yeah, they're both the same. Just sometimes kibbutz is a long, sometimes it's a short, just like with the hirek. Yes, they're slanted. Kibbutz is slanted like that. Any other questions about how the song connects to the charts there? I should teach you this. Tov means the word good, and ma'od is very. So I can say tov ma'od. I think you're doing very well. So tov ma'od. Very good. Yeah, tov ma'od. Tov. All right. If you want to say peace, man, it's shalom. Oh, no, I'm about to say anthropos. Shalom ish. That's Greek. I'm going to say ish is man. And peace, man. Shalom ish. All right. I took a class when I was in Berkeley. I took this class in the Talmud from this hippie get ahead, Haida Yamaka. It's a pretty interesting guy. So we wrote a class about that. Anyway, let's sing the song again, Hebrew alphabet chart. We're going to sing the consonants and then the vowels. Right, here we go. Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, Hey, Waw, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Sadeh, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tau, Comets, Pathak, Sere, Segol, Hirek, Cholem, Shurek, Kid. Tov Ma'od. Let's do it 2 more times. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Waw, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Hey, Tzadek, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tav, Kamet, Pathak, Sere, Segol, Hirek, Cholem, Shurek, Kibbutz, Shewa. One more time. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Waw, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Hey, Tzadek, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tav, Kamet, Pathak, Sere, Segol, Hirek, Cholem, Shurek, Kibbutz, Shewa. All right, very good. Tov Ma'od. Now, you know, the tune is from it's a Jewish tune originally. I don't know what the actual song they were singing was. Oh yeah, it's great. Mashiach. Okay, look at Bereshit, Genesis. Here, nice big print. And I read this on the web too. Okay, so you can go back and look at it. You don't necessarily need to find this time in the lecture, but it's back there. Now, the thing is here, there are some symbols in here that you can disregard because their accents are different, other stuff. Like those dots, those little circles on this one here, you can disregard those. Those just mean there's a marginal note. And like the number 1 and stuff. And each word has accents that you're only going to learn much later in the semester. But I'm going to read Genesis 1:1 very slowly and identify the letters, and then we're going to see if you can say it. We're going to see if you guys can say it word by word. You each say one word, and mine too. That's scary. So here, so I'm going to say it. The first verse here. Bereshith. Actually, you know, before I have you guys say, I need to teach you about opening those syllables. So I'm just going to say it and see if you can kind of follow along. Bereshith. Next word. Bara. Next word. Elohim. Next word. Eighth. Next word. Hashamayim. Next word. What? Eighth. Next word. Ha-a-retz. Say it again. Bereshith. Bara. Elohim. Eighth. Hashamayim. Eighth. Ha-aretz. And that's Bereshith is in the beginning. Bara is the verb to create, masculine singular. Elohim is God. Eighth is the direct object marker. Hashamayim is the heavens. What eighth? What is and eighth is the direct object marker. And haaretz is the earth. So now I'm going to identify the letters as I say them. Bereshith, ba, beith, shua, underneath the beith, resh, ra, sere, underneath the resh, a, aleph, silent letter, sh is a sheen. It's not a hole on the aleph, and you'll be able to tell it's a sheen. Beneath the sheen is a hirek, and there's a line to the left of the hirek that's an accent. Don't worry about the accent. So hirek underneath the sheen, yod after the sheen, so hirek yod, and then a tau. So bore sheath. Then you have bara, beith, comets, ba, resh, comets, ra, and aleph. So bara. Elohim, aleph, silent letter. Hatef sigol, very short eh. Then lamed with a colon. Elo. Notice the colon is right to the left of the lamed up at the top. There's a little triangle underneath the hey, that's an accent. You can disregard that at this point. So Elohim, there's another hirek underneath the hey. A yod to the left of the hirek. So he, final name, ma. So Elohim. Then you have the direct object marker. Aleph, which is silent. Seireh, and tau. Eighth. Then you have ha shamayim. Hey, ha. Pathak, so ha. Sheen, there's a dot in the sheen, which you don't need to worry about yet. You will soon know. Comets underneath there, so that's sha. Maim with a pathak. Ma. Yod with a hirek. Yi, and a final name. Hashamayim. And then you have wa'ef, a wow, with a shawa underneath it. Wa. Aleph, which is silent, Seireh underneath the aleph, and tau. What eighth? And then you have haaretz, hey, comets, ha, aleph, silent letter, and aleph, and a comets. Don't worry about the line to the left of the comets at this point. So ha, and then you have resh, r, segol, re, and a final tzadeh. Notice it goes below the line. So. Haaretz. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim haaretz. Everyone's like to read that next. That's Genesis 1:1. I'm going to read 1:2 as well, and then actually we're going to. I have a number of verses read, so you'll be able to review this yourself later. But we need to cover a few more things in the work today. So I'm going to slowly read Genesis 1:2. Wa ha aretz haya. Tha, thohu, wa, vohu, wa, choshek, al, ha, ne, tha, home, wa, ruach, Elohim, Merachetheth, Al, Paneh, Hamayim. By the way, if you have an interlinear, if you want to know what you're saying, you can just look at the interlinear. Oh, which words are mean. Okay, so what you want to do in learning this, you want to know all the consonants and vowels. We're not covering the transliteration today, but you should learn the transliteration also. And you know if you can say them, if you could like read the sentences in there and you kind of know what you're saying, then you kind of know you've got it. All right? Or you read this. The Bible is a little bit harder because there's accents and other marks you don't know about yet. So it might be a little bit confusing to look at the Bible at this point. I mean, it's fine because it's God's Word. You have the actual saying it on the web. But you want to be able to know what they are so you could write the alphabet out. Like if I had a quiz, which is possible, at the beginning of next class where I had you write all the consonants and the vowels out and maybe like generally how they sounded, then you would know you were on the right track. So, and that's obviously very fundamental to making any progress in the language. Yes?
And how they sound, you said? So like, what the pronunciation?
I mean, I'm not going to ask you to write it in transliteration necessarily, but like if I said, write down what comets sounded like. Or I said, write comets and what it sounded. You wrote comets and you wrote an A, then it would be fine. I mean, A can be either at or ah. But if you wrote comets and you wrote U, or like an L, well then obviously you would, you know, go through. So, or if I said Sayre, and you wrote 2 dots and you put an E, A, then I would know you kind of have it. So, or you put a word that has a long E sound. So, but you'll get it soon enough. It's not too bad. I mean, it looks weird, but I think actually Hebrew is very beautiful. Take a look at any questions about the alphabet song, or if you can find like a Campbell's Hebrew alphabet, so that'd be really, I don't know if they make that. That'd be pretty neat though. I like the letters in the soup. Yeah. Be kosher. That'd be kosher.
So we should be able to take like the portion of scripture here and find like all
Yes.
the marking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you can read it, you can identify what you're looking at, then you know you're making really good progress. The thing about the scripture is there's a few accent marks, so you might be like, what is this? But the exercises, I mean, if you could turn to a random page in Lambden and identify everything that is there, then you know you're doing pretty well. Yeah, but 2 weeks, yeah. It's not too bad. Just do it each day. While you're brushing your teeth. So, okay. Look at, in the book here, in the Lambden, number 1 has the sounds, and you should read that, but it's a little bit confusing. We're not going to say much more about just on Roman numeral 17 at the bottom. It says there's some vowels. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. It says unchangeable long, changeable long, short, and reduced. And he doesn't actually give you the actual vowels there. But those are equivalent to the chart that I have, the one that I wrote out. The top, all these ones are unchangeably long at the very top. Okay. The long. And for the transliteration, you can tell the changeable long, you have the ones where I put long, and then there's short on the side. And the very bottom one is the reduced. Those are the ones with the hat-tapes. So what he says on that page is like this, except I actually have the Hebrew there.
It just depends on the marking on the side.
Yeah, for the transliteration, when you learn the transliteration, and he gives you the transliteration for all the vowels on page 25. The longer vowels have like a triangle on the top, and you have like a line. The shorter ones don't have anything. It's kind of like that, pretty much. Yeah.
The shiwa.
Shiwa.
Would that, which one would that be unchangeable or reduced?
Reduced. That's the upside down E is the shiwa.
Okay.
The other hat-tape vowels are basically shiwa little thing with something stuck next to it. What I want you to get right now is on Roman numeral 18, syllabification. Yes, in Lambden. You can get this without knowing the consonants yet. Just looking at the transliteration, you can kind of see it. In Hebrew, with very few... Oh, wait till I get there. Roman numeral 18. Number 2, syllabification. Okay. With very few exceptions, a syllable must begin with a single consonant followed by at least one vowel. This rule alone will suffice for the accurate division of a word into syllables. Isn't that good? That's good. Consider the following examples. Midbar. So you have to have each syllable, each new syllable has to begin with a consonant followed by at least one vowel. So midbar, you have consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant. So the syllables must be mid and bar. Abib, his father. Well, you have the aleph. Remember the close quote mark is the aleph. So aleph, comets, Then you have the B and the E. The I there is the only vowel, so that has to be divided. B. Devarim has to be divided. Da, va, ri. No other way you can divide it. Mimeni, from me, has to be divided. Mim, men, ni. Because each syllable is a consonant followed by at least a vowel. Giborim has to be gib, bo, ri. Yishlacheni has to be yish, la, fe, ni. Malaka has to be mal, ke, ka. I said mal, ke, ka. Mal, ka, mal, ke, kem is mal, ke, kem. So the simple rule that each syllable is a consonant followed by at least a vowel kind of helps you divide the syllables. That's the only rule that you really need to know. But you want to know this thing in the next paragraph. The syllables are either open or closed. An open syllable ends in a vowel. So consonant vowel is open. So it's open, like the vowel kind of go on. Ma. Okay. Closed syllable ends in a consonant. Mom. You can't keep going. What's it? Okay. Mom. So consonant, vowel, consonant, closed syllable. Open syllable, consonant, vowel. So in midbar, are the two syllables closed or open? Up on the first word we read, wilderness, midbar. And use their mic.
They're closed.
They're closed. Good. Good. In Abib, what is the first? Yeah, pass it back. First syllable is open or closed?
Open.
Good. Second syllable is?
Closed.
Closed. Good. Yes. Question.
But the rule is a syllable must begin with a single consonant. So in that view, where you just have that vowel.
Nope. The quote mark, remember, is the consonant aleph. So that open quote before the ah is a consonant. Okay. Devarim. Tell me, Ricky, open or closed syllables? Good. Very good. Tov ma'od. How about mimeni? Too close or open. Okay. You want to do it, Bob? No? Okay. That's fine. No problem. Okay, let's see Phil, warriors. That'd be a good word for you to say. So you can give or even.
Close, open, close.
Very good. Tov ma'od. Yeah, that's enough for those. Yeah, I think it's not that bad. No, we're not going to say more. Unless you have a question, Heather? Okay. Now, in the paragraph beneath there, it says, when determining syllabification, note that a double consonant, that's where the letters are twice, is always to be divided in the middle. So the syllable will always divide between, if it's the same one twice like that. That doesn't mean there's any perceptible pause between the syllables in pronunciation. A double consonant is simply held longer than a single one. Contrast the long end in meanness with a normal short end in any. So it's kind of like that. When you have a double consonant in Hebrew, you say it just a little bit longer. Just like with meanness, it's a longer N than any. No. So, and your pronunciation will get better and better as we go through this. So there you can see examples. Libka. The syllable, you have the first closed syllable, lib. The next syllable, open syllable, ba. Final open syllable, ka. So one closed, two open. And the syllables divide between lib and ba because you can't have the two baiths in the same syllable. Mimika divides between mim and meh because you're not going to have two names in a row. So closed, open, open there. So that's how that works. Questions about the syllabification. Do you have any questions? Yes.
So the main purpose of that is just so when they put it in from the Hebrew into the English, we can properly I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with actual.
It's valuable. When you pronounce it, you're gonna like when I was saying it slowly, I was saying it syllable by syllable.
The Hebrew?
The Hebrew, yeah. So knowing that rule both helps you with some vowels. Later you'll see how that helps you with the vowels, and it helps you with how you say the Hebrew. So yeah, that is a word. It is important to know that for just being able to say the Hebrew. Number 3, stress. So I've got a lot of that right now. Words are stressed on the last syllable. That's called the ultima, or the next to last, the penultima. And normally, words are stressed on the last syllable. So in the examples that we gave above, in Midbar Wilderness and Aviv, it's Midbar, Aviv, Devarim, Mimeni, or actually it's Mimeni because it's an accident. But normally, or wait, is it Mimeni? I don't remember now. Gibori, normally they're stressed on the ultima. And so it just gets a little bit more oomph in the word, and the last syllable. Penultimate stress is before. So they give examples. Davar, word. Devarim, word. So it's not devarim or devarim, it's devarim. Navi, prophet. Not Navi, but Navi. Penultimate stress. Melech, king. Leila, night. Nechosheth, bronze. Because practically the normal pattern is stress on the last syllable on the ultima, the book will only mark stress when it's not on the ultima. So it'll only put a little accent mark over it if it's not stressed. If you see a vocab word and there's no accent mark, then you know it's stressed on the ultima. If you see an accent mark, then it's stressed on whatever it's stressed on.
So in the Bible, we'll have those accents with it.
The Bible has it. Now, Landon, later in the book, he introduced a few the Hebrew accents, but he just puts like an English, like when you learn English, like a little greater than less than sign. He puts that for the accent syllable for many lessons. The Bible has its own system of accentuation, which is, it doesn't have, well actually it does have an accent that looks like that, but it has a whole bunch of accents. And those accents are usually on the accent syllable as well. But right here, it's just going to look like the little crocodile mouth thing. To give you an example, if you go to page 6, English letter 6, they have vocabulary 1. So vocabulary 1, the second word there is Zakein, an old man or elder. Zakein. You have Zion, comets, Za, Kof, Sere, K, and then noon, a long final noon, so Zakein. Now there's no little greater than less than symbol, so it's stressed on the ultima, on the last syllable. So it's Zakein, not Zakein. Or river is Nahar. Noon, comets, Hey, comets, Resh. Nahar, not Nahar. While the third word, the word house, notice there's a little accent mark over the bait. So it's Bayith, not Bayith. Or the first word has the little accent mark, Na'ar, over the noon, so it's Na'ar, not Na'ar. So if there's no accent mark, it's stressed on the ultima, the final syllable. If there's an accent mark, then it's stressed on the penultima. Questions about that? I don't think that's too common. Yes? What's the number? Go back to Roman numeral 18. Roll my watch. Oh, here it is. Oh, wow. Okay. On the number 3 stress, just a few more terms to define. it says the stressed syllable is often referred to as the tonic syllable, and the two preceding is the pretonic and propretonic. That's just some words in there. So the one with the stress, tonic syllable, the one before the stress, pretonic, two before the stress is propretonic. There are 6 letters in the alphabet that can have. If you look at the alphabet chart, keep your book open here to Roman numeral 18. There are 6 letters that can have a dot in the middle. The dot in the middle is called a dagesh. That's the name for the dot. And the 6 letters that can take the dagesh are Beth, Gimel, Daleth, the second, third, and fourth letter of the alphabets. Then you have to go down to Pei, and then you go down to Tau. And the way to remember those is to remember Begad Kepat. And he has that under number 4. It's just the 6 letters, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, Kof, Pei, Tau, with a vowel in between them.
Did you say the Kaf?
The Kaf. Basically, it's the ones you can. Did I say? Maybe I skipped Kaf. If I skipped Kaf, I'm sorry. Yes, Kaf as well. It's Begad. You could even write in the margin here. You could write Begad Kepat by those ones. It's just the ones that have the dot in the middle or don't. Those are the only ones that can take that dot, dagesh, in the middle. Only those 6 letters can take that. And in those 6 letters, the one with the dagesh is called a stop, because the sound stops. And the one without the dagesh is called a spirant, because the sound keeps going. So, ba, you can't say b and keep it going, it just stops. Okay? While va, you keep going. You can say ba, 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 but ba doesn't keep going. See? Just stop. Gimel, the one with the dagesh is gut. You can't say gut. While the spirit is gut, kind of keeps going. Daleth, da, versus da, keeps going a bit. The Kaf, ka, versus keeps going. Pei, pa, versus f. And then ta, versus f. So those are the 6 stops versus the spirits. Yes?
Stops.
Spirits. And he has that terminology. Where does he have the terminology? Yes. Yes, he says spirantized. So if you read page 18, which you haven't read it yet, but the 6, they're called stops, where it's just the one with the dagesh, and then a spirant has the that keep going sound. And there are certain rules for which ones come in which places. He tells you on page 19 there. Only the stops occur doubled. So only the stops can be translated as 2 B's. They have that longer sound. And we'll get into more of that later. And the spirits, and he tells you, let's see, letter B there on page 19. The stops occur only at the beginning of a syllable when immediately preceded by another consonant. So, and then the spirits occur when it's not that way. And we're not going to get into the vowel reduction right now, but that relates to the 3 syllables as well. That's the next one. So what you're supposed to read, and we will talk about these some more, and you have 2 weeks for it, so that's a blessing. You're supposed to read Roman numerals up in the sounds and spelling section up through 21, Roman numeral 21. And then you're supposed to read lessons 1 and 2 on page 3 through 11. You don't have to do the exercise yet, you just have to read them and do your best to understand what they're saying.
Can you say what we're supposed to read again? Is that in that sound?
Yeah, it's lessons 1 and 2, and then on the front of lesson 1 it says read 1 through 3 of sounds and spelling on 1, and on 2 it says read 4 through 6 in sounds and spelling. So it's the sounds and spelling first section 1 through 6 of lessons 1 and 2.
And where's that on?
This sheet, it says, for April 19, it says do L1 and 2. That's lessons 1 and 2.
So, and you said something else about that too?
Well, no, but on the front of lesson 1, see, on lesson 1, it also says read 1 to 3 sound spelling.
Okay.
So it tells you in lessons 1 and 2. And I understand if don't kind of get scared right at the beginning and say this is this big crazy alphabet. Oh man, I just can't get it. After you get over this hump of learning this weird alphabet, it actually is not bad. It just easily builds on each other. But it's easy, I think, in the first lesson to just kind of go, all these funny looking characters and vowels and blah, 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 blah. But don't do that. Once you get past, you get used to it, you learn the alphabet, and I think the book very logically builds on itself. And it won't be too bad. Yes?
Now, do we read lesson 1 and then the Roman numerals? Or should we read the Roman numerals before we read lesson 1? Like what order?
It's a wash, whichever one you want.
Okay.
I would try, I mean, you can read, I would try to get the alphabet and the vowels down as like I mean, you can work on this the whole week. So you put this in your bathroom when you're shaving or doing your hair. You can when men shave, ladies are, but when you do that, shaving doesn't take nearly as long though. I mean, I don't understand. I'm glad. I'm very thankful. I love ladies. I mean, my wife's one. She's wonderful. But I'm so glad I can get ready faster. You know. But anyway, so you can put it up and you can look at it while you're doing whatever else you're doing. Okay. And so you want to get that down. That's absolutely essential that you learn the alphabet. And then you also want to try to get a grasp of lessons 1 and 2. But we're going to talk more about that. Anybody have any final questions here? Okay, since this is very appropriate, on the course outline, on the last page, I have numbers 6, 24 to 26. I'm going to read it to you in English, just so you actually kind of know what I'm saying. And then I'm going to read you the Hebrew. And at the end of each class, I'm going to be wishing you this benediction, because it's a kind of a neat benediction. It's a good way to close the class. So in English, it says, "The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace." So that's the benediction that the Lord spake to Moses there, or told Moses to tell the children of Israel. And so I'm going to read it there in Hebrew. I'm going to read it slowly, so hopefully at least you can kind of follow along at least. Yevarekecha Yehovah V'yish Moreka. And actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you what each word is too as we go through it and compare it to English. The first word, Yevarekecha, is bless thee. Yehovah is Jehovah, the Lord. V'yish Moreka is and keep thee. Ya'er Yehovah Panayu Eleika Vichunecha. Ya'er is lift up. Yehovah, Jehovah. Panayu, his face or countenance. Eleika, upon thee. Vichunecha is be gracious to thee. Yisa Yehovah Panayu Eleika V'yasem Lecha Shalom. That's Ya'er, lift up. Yehovah, Jehovah. Panayu, his countenance or face. Elecha, upon thee. V'yasem, and give. Lecha, to thee. Shalom, peace. So that's what I wish for you, and look forward to see you next time. So you are dismissed. Tov La'od for the first class. Very much.